new to the St. Matthias Church. I'm the director here. My name is Colleen Briscoe, and we're very excited to highlight Arifin's wonderful photography tonight and to give him a platform to talk about his experience in taking these photographs, his journey with the community there. And welcome. And Arifin, I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm so impressed with what you put together. I'm looking forward to hearing the story. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Colleen, for that. And hold on a second. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay, this is great. Aloha, everyone. This is fabulous. You know, this is like, this is your life, you know? You know that television show when everybody from different parts of your life all come together in the same room? And I would be remiss if I didn't especially welcome our friends Simon and Julie Andrews from San Diego, who came up today for the weekend too. Yes. And they and their family have spent lovely times with us, both in Lahaina and on Horn Beach over the years. Where to begin? This is about stories. It's about, I think these photographs that I've put together are about stories and people and their daily lives. And this place, which as you can see from this postcard, this old, beautiful postcard, is a vision of paradise. It's one of those places that people have visited from around the world for many, many years. And this place has nourished them, it has given them rest and relaxation and enjoyment, and they've gone home and told wonderful stories. At the same time, there are the people who live in Lahaina and on Maui. And part of the story that I am telling with the photographs is to do with those people, the people who live in paradise, the people who make a living in paradise, the people who make it a place for us to come and be welcomed and to enjoy ourselves. So I think about influences in my life. And why do I do this particular kind of work photographically? One big influence in my life has been a man called Purple Jones. And he was my first photography professor at the San Francisco Art Institute in the 1970s. And Purple was a longtime protege and friend of Ansel Adams. Ooh. And thank you. good old Ansel, yay! And he would talk about Ansel Adams, you know. And I realize now, almost 50 years later, that I was in the presence of somebody of this sort of threads to certainly American photography through Purple Jones. And one of the things that Purple talked about was probably the most important part of his photographic career. And that was a project called The Death of a Valley. And he did that project with Dorothea Lange, who's a great American photographer. I'm going to show you one of her photographs. If you don't know the name Dorothea Lange, I think you'll know the photograph. So I'll show it to you in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the work that they did to give some perspective of where I come from in terms of my influences to do with photographs. The Death of the Valley was to do with the Berryessa Valley in California. It was a rich agricultural land where a community had grown up there and been in existence for about 150 years. And in the 1950s, the California Water Board, or whatever it's called, decided that they needed water for agriculture. And that this valley was going to be where that water was going to go. And so they were given a year to basically move out. So this community, this rich, loving community, was displaced. And Dorothea Lange and Purple Jones were commissioned by Life magazine to go and to document the last year of this valley. And in thinking about the project that I've been doing in Lahaina, I could see that there's this resonance of they knew that the place that they were documenting was going to be destroyed by water, essentially. What I didn't know with the Lahaina pictures was that Lahaina was going to be destroyed by fire. But I see a resonance. So, and this is Dorothea Lange's famous photograph of
yeah.
So that's who Dorothea Lange is. That's who Purple worked with on this project. So they were there for a year, off and on. And it was, I think, a heartbreaking project for them. And as Purple, as I said, Purple said that it was his most important photographic work in his entire career. He only died. He died at the age of 96, about 10 years ago. Lovely man. And so these are some of the photographs that they created. So that's an important influence for me. Is his legacy and what I learned from him over the years. And then we come to Hawaii. And we must learn to become conservationists of memory. Otherwise, the damage we have done to our planet will cost us our past, as it may have already cost us our future. So, when my friend John Azar sent me that article about a year ago, or it was after the fires in Lahaina, I felt that this was so important that we need, as artists, to capture the world that we have today, because it's changing. It's changing rapidly, and certainly from the time that I was a kid, and I was talking with somebody around my age yesterday, I think, well, what a carefree time we had. Even though there were, yes, terrible things happening in the world, but the world is changing. I think if artists can capture what we have and what is important to us, then we at least remember who we were at a particular time. So then we go to Hawaii. And for me, Hawaii was a place that was introduced to me by my dear parents, Pip and Nikki. When I was about 4 years old, we went probably several times, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years old, to Waikiki Beach, when it was just a place with little sort of two-story hotels on it. Now there's 35-story, 5-star hotels. And so they introduced, and here they are looking, they're full of aloha gear, right? So that's where I think as a young boy, this place, Hawaii, became a very magical and enjoyable place for me. A place, where you're on the beach in the middle of the winter. Oh my God, how wonderful is that? And then my dear mom bought a place my parents bought a place in Lahaina in the late 1980s. And so that allowed my dear wife, Luluya, and I the privilege to be able to go to Hawaii and to visit them and to experience that culture. So that's how we became so aware of Lahaina and Maui and how we got to visit it so many times over the years. And to get to know people, to get to know the place, to have friends there, to go paddling, to do all those lovely things that one can do in this paradise. And I thank my parents so much for that. So then we come to Earth Day 2022. And that morning we had gone, Lily and I had gone, and with the Kihei Canoe Club, scattered my mother's ashes in the Pacific Ocean. And that was, so it was a very special day. And then that afternoon, I was down on what I call the ragged end of Lahaina, the area of Mala Wharf. And within 2 minutes, I saw what I thought were 3 compelling images. And this was the first one. A woman who, I had the impression that she might have come to Maui in the 70s or the 80s and found paradise, but maybe stayed a little longer than she should have. I think she was certainly down on her luck. But anyway, we had a short chat. And I said, do you mind, can I take your photograph? She said, yeah, absolutely, it's fine. Yeah. And so I did. And then I saw this guy at this outdoor shot. I thought, oh my God, look at that. That is so cool. What a fabulous image. And then about 30 seconds later, these guys, who are heavily tattooed entrepreneurs, I like to call them, and they were putting on their flea market the next day. And so they're these two guys who are graphic designers. Look at them. Plying their trade on the street and making their sign for the flea market the next day. So it almost came as an epiphany, as this moment of inspiration, where these three pictures, I thought, these have to be in black and white, and something just started. Because I had done black and white photography in the 1970s at the San Francisco Art Institute, but really I had forgotten about it. But all of a sudden it was back. And one other thing happened that day. I had a very good friend when I was studying in San Francisco, Marcus Leatherdale. And he was a great friend. We were pals. He was from Montreal, and he was a great photographer. And he went off to New York to work for Robert Mapplethorpe and then have his own career. I went to London and became a graphic designer. And I never saw Marcus again after the summer of 1978. But we always kept in touch, how's it going? And then the next morning, after I took these photographs, a friend from Los Angeles called and said, are you sitting down? And she said that Marcus died yesterday in Europe. So my theory on this, if you believe in this sort of thing, but don't, it's fine, I do, is that Marcus, on his last trip around the earth, came and found me in Maui and said, hey, pal, you have a talent. You should be using it. And, that's my story. I am darn well sticking with it. Okay? So those are the things that happened that day. Earth Day, scattering compassions in the Pacific, Marcus. And so my eye for what I was looking for in Lahaina, what I was seeing in Lahaina, all of a sudden was trained differently.
Yes.
And hear that, aloha. And so the work. And so Louie and I were in Maui again for about another 10 days after that. And then back there later on that year, sort of August, for about 2.5 weeks. So the body of work here all happened within about 3 weeks. And then I came back to Victoria and I thought, I'm in my own town now, I can't do that. But actually, the next thing I'm working on is called Victoriana, so watch out for it. And the last resort. And I also knew that the name of this series would be The Last Resort. And that's named after the Eagles song of 1976, which is, as Don Henley called it, it's the history of Western civilization and how we destroy things that we find. Paradise, we find it, and then we destroy it in 7 minutes. It's a wonderful song. And Lahaina figures in that song. We can leave it all behind, sail to Lahaina like the missionaries did so many years ago. And then they call it paradise. I don't know why. You call someplace paradise and kiss it goodbye. And I always loved that song. I always thought it was so prescient in terms of what we do as humans. We find paradise and we kind of mess it up. It seems to be, in our DNA. What? And then Lahaina burned. I thought, wow, you guys wrote that song way back then. And it actually happened, in the place that was the last resort, the last refuge, the last place to be. So, this is Kevin in Ed's 76 gas station. And so what I'm going to do, I've chosen just a few of the pictures. I'm just going to talk about them a little bit and the experience. Some of them are just little snippets of experience. And part of what I think drives me to do this type of photography is that it's an opening to relationship with people. And also an opportunity to recognize people who might otherwise be invisible to us. You know, going to a gas station and this is just some guy I'm going to pay and then I'm going to leave again. Well, I went to this gas station 2 or 3 times, and you know, once you get to know people a little bit, you start having a little more of a chat. And it's just these natural things that happen. And so this is probably the 3rd time I was in the gas station. Hey, Kevin, can I take your portrait? Absolutely, man, yeah. And so he got the portrait, and there it is. And for me, this is one of the central photographs of the whole piece. And a friend said to me recently, "Oh yeah, you got to use Kevin for the car, you know, for the poster and the ads and everything, because you know it's a real Hawaiian. He's giving you the shotgun. Look at that background; it's great." But actually, you know, Kevin had moved to Hawaii about 4 months before this picture was taken. So, our eyes, deceive us. Anyway, he was a lovely guy, and I don't know what's happened to him. I hope he's doing okay. I looked through the roles of the people who had died in the fires, and most of the people I photographed, I know their first names, and none of them appeared there. So I hope Kevin is okay. Maybe he's gone back to the This is Dom and Crystal, and I met them in a gas station, and I thought their truck was really cool. They looked like they had their whole everything on the back of their truck, and I sort of took a picture, and then Crystal said, hey, how do you doing? I said, oh, hey, can I take you guys your picture? And they said, absolutely. And here's one of the wonderful things about street photography. You know, you never quite know what you're going to get. And written in Sharpie on the inside of Dom's door here, it says, Dom and Crystal, forever, no going back. There's their testament to each other, written in Sharpie. You know? And it's one of those things, and I looked at it later on, and what's that? Oh my God, that is so cool. You know, these little gifts you can get that just, you know, magically appear. This is Aunt Kay, and this was on one of our last days in Lahaina. And I didn't have any cash on me, and I said, oh, banana bread. Oh, and we have banana bread here, by the way. Thanks. And Aunt Kay, I said, oh, I don't have any money with me, I'm leaving tonight. And I said, well, I'll have to come back later. And I started walking toward the car, and she said, hey, come back. Here, have a banana bread. So she was really sweet. I hope she's doing okay. And this is Kirk Bose. So Kirk is the one person who I knew how to farm. Now because we were, part of what we were doing in Maui on this trip was to take care of the stuff that had come out of my mother's place there, and to distribute it, because we sold my mom's place, and to donate it to various places. Anyway, there was lots of pictures that we had from my mom's place. And somebody told me that what Kirk and the Lahaina Art Society would be the guy to take it to, because they take these pictures and they will sell them and raise money for their keiki, the children's art program. And I thought, Mom would love that, so did we. So I took these pictures to Kirk and said, oh, Kirk, hold up that sign. It says, Maui, seek your bliss. And Kirk's a guy who went to Maui, came to Maui about 35 years ago, and you know, for 2 years, whatever, and he's still there. And so after the fire, I wrote to Kirk, and you know, about 5 days after, and how are you doing, Kirk? Are you okay? Anyway, he wrote back to me, and he said this: thank you. My wife and I saved my dog and got out in my truck 2 minutes before the firestorm. Many of my neighbors perished. Now, I couldn't understand. Okay, so 100 people had died in Lahaina, but many of his neighbors perished. So 2 weeks ago, I got this story. I subscribed to some Hawaii newspapers, and there was a story about this one street in Lahaina where a third of the people who died in the fires were in that street. And they start the article talking about Laura and Kirk getting in the truck, getting up. So Kirk goes on in his text to say, this is from last August, the material things can be replaced. The loss of life is staggering. We appreciate your thoughts and prayers. We are optimistic and hopeful for the future. There is a lot of love. And as it turns out, love is the only thing that matters and the only thing that lasts. This is from a man who had just lost everything, except his truck and his dog and his dear wife. So I've been in touch with him again. And then there's the young people. And so then the young people, this is Riley and Tristan, a brother and sister, and they're at the Olawalu General Store. And Olawalu is a town which is about 8 miles down the road from Lahaina. And during the fire, this is Olawalu, and it's part of the town. There's half a dozen houses, a dozen houses. That's where many people came, was to Olawalu to escape. So this is the Olawalu General Store, founded in 1932. Tristan, we met Tristan a few times, and I said, Tristan, can I take a picture of who was posed? He really didn't want to smile, and come on, Tristan, we gotta get you going, energized in your life. Anyway, this next time he came, his sister moved back from New York to run the store, and now he's smiling. So, brother and sister together, I think it's a good sign, and because it's the youth. It's so important, always, the youth, the young people that can help to rejuvenate the community, to rebuild the community. So we look forward to seeing them soon as well. And final picture I'm going to show you tonight, and this is from that Earth Day as well. And this is the memorial hula with the Kihei Canoe Club from the spreading of my mom's ashes.
Wow.
And hula, is such a big part of life in Hawaii. And the Hawaiians do it, the Filipinos do it, the white people do it, everybody does it. It just becomes part of what that whole feeling of the place is. Aloha. You can see how long you can hold it for me. And then you kiss the sky. Aloha, thank you all, each and every one of you.
Sick people, if you ask them friendly.
Yeah, and I think there's an art to doing it. It's what makes a difference between a really good photographer, is how you can approach people and be like water almost.
Yeah.
To be
see the essence in small things.
Yeah, and to really understand in a moment who they are and how to be, and then they'll feel comfortable.